Hey friends, I hope this finds you well. And Thanksgiving is coming up. I think Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. And I've been thinking a lot about this whole idea of thankfulness. And so I thought I might share over the next few devotionals some thoughts on thankfulness. But let me just read to you from 1 Thessalonians chapter number 5, and beginning in verse 16, it says, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Do not quench the Spirit." Well, I don't want to go any further because it goes into a whole different topic, but he starts off, and this passage follows some important instructions that remind the believer to never repay evil with evil. But he says, on the contrary, always be about rejoicing. And when you think about rejoicing, the idea, man, let your heart be overflowing with a sense of joy. And I know that can seem quite impossible, and maybe in a human sense, in a natural sense, impossible. But we are not a people that are left to our own resources, but a people who are indwelt by the very life of God. And so he tells us to rejoice always, because we're to have a heavenly perspective on everything that's going on in our life. And so connected with rejoicing, he says, pray without ceasing. Now that doesn't mean that we're 24 hours a day constantly on our knees in our prayer closet, but it means that we have a mindfulness of dependence, a mindfulness of communication and intimacy with God as we go throughout the day, both, praying for others as they come to our mind. But I think it's even more basic than that. It's simply, okay, Lord, what do you want to do now? And what would you like to say through me? And how would you like to love this person that is before me? And how would you like to release your life through me? So what do you want to say? What do you want to do? Jesus in the Gospel of John says, I only do what I see the Father doing. I say what I hear the Father saying. And, friends, that is our great privilege, is to be in constant communion with God. And so, when he says pray without ceasing, he's really just saying, listen, live your life in constant communion with the indwelling life of God, to know what he wants to do and what he wants to say and how he wants to give through you, so that you're living in a responsive relationship with the indwelling life of God. And so then in verse 18, he says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. So give thanks in all circumstances. And I know that your first, and don't be offended, but your first fleshly response might think, how can I give thanks for this? How can I give thanks when I'm facing this disease? How can I give thanks when I'm facing death, or I'm facing the loss of a loved one? How can I give thanks when I'm finding myself in great financial need? Well, it all goes back to the idea, the premise, the foundation, that we are those who are indwelt by the life of God, that we are his possession and we possess him, that he lives in us as we do live in him. And so we begin to look at everything through an eternal lens to understand that we are in the hand of God, and that we are not victims of our circumstances, that we are not subject to the whims of the devil. He has no power over us, but that we begin to understand that every circumstance that we are in, every circumstance that we face, we give thanks to God for that, because we understand that in this and through this, he is both going to reveal himself, he's going to advance his kingdom, and he's going to work out our transformation. You all, I'm sure, have heard Romans 8, where Paul tells them, he says that he works all things together for good for them who love him and who are called according to his purpose. I don't think that means that everything that happens in our life is good. It just means that we have the promise that our loving God who loves us is going to use all things together for our good, for the good of his kingdom, as confusing and as difficult as it is. And so we need to begin to learn to practice an attitude of gratitude, an attitude that says, Lord, thank you. Thank you for all of your blessings. Thank you for giving me the riches that I have in Christ. Thank you for making me the righteousness of God. And thank you for loving me and accepting me and calling me. And Lord, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the things, the circumstances of my life. For I see that I am not a victim, but that you are working in me and through me to reveal yourself, your glory, and to work about your transformation. And though I might find myself very confused about the why, I know that me giving thanks and trusting you to be working for your glory, for the advancement of your kingdom in every circumstances, this is the will of God in Christ Jesus. I always used to focus on the where of the will of God and the what of the will of God. And I've come to the conclusion now, friends, that the will of God is not so much a where or a what, but a who. And the will of God in Christ Jesus is that I live every day, every moment, as one who rejoices that they are the beloved child of God, and that I am not a victim, but I am one who has been granted the grand privilege of living in an intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. So I pray without ceasing, and I give thanks. And when I do this, I don't quench the Spirit, because nothing quenches the working and the moving of the Spirit of God in our lives like ingratitude, like a grumbling spirit. And so, Parkinson's, I give thanks. I don't always like the issues I have to deal with, but I choose to give thanks because I know he's using it for his glory, for my transformation, and the advancement of his kingdom. Will you join me? Rejoice. Give thanks. No matter what our circumstances this week, we have so much to be thankful. Hey, I went a little bit longer than normal today, but listen, I love you and I hope this blesses you. And you make the choice today to just begin rejoicing, communing, and being thankful in every circumstances. I love you. Have a great day.